All right, hello. I think the stream will be starting in just a second, and I'm waiting for it to. Oh wait, that's not on play.
No.
Neither is this one.
There we go.
There we go. Okay, so we're here. That's what our thing looks like. And today on the arena, we are playing Hearthstone. I'm your host, Eric. I'm a PhD student here at UW Milwaukee. Next to me is Kelly.
Hello, I am also a PhD student at UWM.
All right, and so this is the arena. Now this is kind of confusing because as you can see right here, and I expect to get some comments as people filter in and see what this is all about. They're going to be expecting arena gameplay because in Hearthstone there's two modes. There's arena mode and there's standard mode. Now arena is interesting, but it's not an esport, which is what the goal of this show, the arena, is. We cover esports. We try to ask how do people play them? Why do people love to watch them? You know, how do the players interact with each other? All these kind of fundamental questions about what makes a competitive game a competitive game. And so we'll be playing the competitive mode, and we'll be watching some later. So we won't be playing the arena. That's okay, but it's funny. Arena is like if you're familiar with card games, just to go over it for just a second, it is a draft mode where you get a selection of 3 cards. You have to pick one, and then you do that 30 times. Then you have your deck, and because this is a card game where you have a certain number of cards, rather than going into your collection and building from your collection, you get a random selection of cards. That doesn't really affect us today. So, thank you for doing that, Kelly, by the way.
No problem.
So, Hearthstone is a competitive card game. The goal of Hearthstone is obviously to win and reduce your opponent's life goal to life points with the health to 0. Can't talk right now. Let's drink a little bit of water. And so today we're going to be discussing some Hearthstone fundamentals, really, kind of gearing at how do I play and watch this game. So, first thing that you need to know about a card game is that it's all based on a lot of cards. And so you see here, this is my personal collection, and I've got a lot of cards. Cards in Hearthstone are split into 2 different kinds. There's like this, which is a spell, and you can tell because it's got no stats in the bottom here. And then this, which is like a minion. Minions usually can do more than that, but in the top left corner we've got its mana costs, which we'll get to more a little bit why mana is important later. Its attack and its health. If its health gets reduced to 0, it's dead. It's pretty intuitive. Spells don't have health, they just do an effect, like transforming a minion into a 1/1 sheep. There's 9 classes in Hearthstone, and we'll go over those in a little bit later, as well as neutral cards. So any class can use a neutral card. Meanwhile, all classes also have the access to some class cards, which are usually a little more powerful than these. There are, so inside each class, of course, there's a lot of different kinds of cards and archetypes that you can build. And so a competitive card game has 2 really important facets. One is actually playing the game against another person, right? The other is building your deck and queuing into the ladder. And queuing the deck. Kind of like last week, we saw that there were 3 races in StarCraft. Now that's a lot different than 9 classes and theoretically infinite number of decks that you can build with the different combinations of cards. A deck is typically going to be 30 cards. So what we're going to do to start is I just want to play an example game of practice against the computer. And we'll go up against the expert computer. We're not scared. And the deck I'm going to play here is
I'm scared.
The deck is going to be called just Classic Priest. Now, Priest is the class that I have played the most of in all of Hearthstone. It's my favorite class. You can see I've got this like motion-y kind of portrait. That means I have 500 competitive wins with the class, as well as I have gold hero power. If we go to Mage, I've only got like 400, and so not all cool. So the Classic Priest, though, I put that in quotations because the game gives you some default decks that you can build. And Classic Priest is the default Priest deck, assuming you have all the cards for it. I happen to have all the cards to build Classic Priests, so I thought that would give us a good chance to just get into some fundamentals against the computer and talk about, we get to pick the class we play against. We'll play against a Mage. Mage is one of the most straightforward classes. So there's always these little things here. But, so the first thing that you're going to notice is going to be me against my opponent. It's a 1v1 game. That's kind of the theme of our first month of the arena. Is last week we played StarCraft 2, which is like 1v1, and this game's gonna be 1v1. Next 2 weeks after this, we're gonna be doing fighting games, Street Fighter V and Smash Brothers. And those are also games that are typically played 1v1, though Smash does have a 2v2 variety. So this is the mulligan phase of a card game. And what that means is it gives you your opening hand, and you can choose what you want to keep and what you want to throw away. In this case, I want to throw away all these, because these... So I start with 1 mana, and every turn I'm going to get 1 I'm going to get 1 extra. So I'll start with 1, the next turn I'll have 2, then 3, then 4. Eventually it'll cap out at 10. So after the 10th turn, I won't get any more mana. I'll just have 10. And none of these are 2 or less. Generally I'm looking to keep my cheaper minions.
Oh, what is the 0?
The 0 was a spell card that has a special effect that I really would rather use at a different time. And so we can see here we've got a couple cards in our hand. Now I want to note some stuff on the playboard here. One, we can see the decks here. Our opponent has 26 cards in their deck. We have 26 cards in our deck. At the beginning of our turn, we drew this card. At the beginning of each of your turns, you'll draw a card from your deck. The other thing to note is each player has a hero power. Now this is determined based on the class. Priest hero power is heal 2 health to something. I could heal it to him if I wanted to. Usually it would be healing yourself by 2 or one of your minions who's maybe been hurt. You can heal them by 2 as well. Meanwhile, we've got cards in our hand, like this Wild Pyromancer. And we'll talk about this Wild Pyromancer here. So, Wild Pyromancer is a 2 mana card. It has 3 attack and 2 health. And after I cast any spell, I deal 1 damage to all minions. So, if I can combo with a couple spells and my opponent's got a bigger board than me, I can just wipe out their board, right? In this instance, do I want to play it? He has a 3-2. And what that means is he got 2 attack, I've got a 3-2. It's got 2 health. Which means when I play this, he can run this 2-2 into my 3-2 and kill it. He should do that. Yeah. And the reason why he should have done that is because if you notice, my Wild Pyromancer had 3 attack, and he just played this 1 attack minion. So my 3-2 could have just ran into this, it would have been a 3-1, and then I would have been golden. Now the question is, do I want to play this? And the answer is, I think yes, I want to play this. The reason why is because this classic priest deck is more of... Ooh, we'll see if he plays anything with it. So, he played a secret. Now this isn't... Oh, he's gonna... Oh, he didn't kill a thing. This thing gains 2 attack whenever they cast a spell. So now we have something that's worrisome. Our opponent has played this secret. A secret is hidden until something happens. Now, I know all the secrets. Some occur when you play a minion, some occur when you attack, some occur when you play a spell. In fact, I'm pretty sure that it's counterspell. Counterspell will make it so if I cast a spell, it'll be like, no, that didn't happen. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna attack here. Yep, it didn't trigger on that. There's only a couple secrets that will trigger when you attack a minion for mage at least. There's a lot for hunter. Then we're gonna play light spawn. Oh, it's mirror entity. That's really bad for us. Oh well. So mirror entity is this minion's attack is always equal to its health. And so, but the thing is now his thing just summons a copy of whatever minion I just played. Oh. So now, okay, so now it's a 4-4 and he just traded the 1-1 into it. This is actually going really poorly. Alright.
He's wrecking you.
They are wrecking me. It's because the classic priest really sucks. So we're gonna have to take... Okay, so this is actually... Oh, this is so bad. Okay, so we have a couple options here. This is Holy Nova. It deals 2 damage to all my enemies, which would include his face, as well as any of his minions, and then restores 2 out to all my minions. Now here's the problem. That could be counterspell. Again, right? And if it is counterspell, then I would probably want to play this first, which restores 4 health to all minions. But if I did that, then I'm healing this minion out of range of the Holy Nova. So we're gonna take a chance. Wait, we'll take a chance. It is counterspell. We just spent 5 mana to do nothing. We're getting thrashed. Oh man, another secret. Alright, so this is our first game of Hearthstone of the day, and it's going really poorly. If anyone has any questions in chat, feel free to ask. So for instance, like this guy who costs 6 mana, we can only just now play them. Oops, I didn't actually want to play them. Please don't be mirror entity. Okay. So our opponent can do 4, 5, 6 damage next turn, and now we'll get another free. So we just lost. Alright. So that's probably another counter spell.
Ouch.
So this is 4, 5, 6, and then this does 1 damage, so they can do 7 damage. So what can I do here? Nothing. I'm gonna lose. Oh, that card. That was destroy a minion with 5 or more attack, and that had 5 or more attack, so I could kill it. So what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to find something
Can you just throw everyone on so long as you have the mana to throw them on?
Yeah, exactly. You can cast all your mana. So what I'm doing now is I'm kind of just playing cards. Alright, so we lost. Our opponent has what's called lethal, which means that they have the ability to kill our face with what's in their hands and in their thing. The game of Hearthstone is really who can get lethal first, right? Who can, you know. And so it's kind of like,
Ouch.
the goal is, yeah, so we lost. That's because Classic Priest is really terrible. But that's okay. Now we're only 3-10, so we'll play another game, and this time we'll play it against Rogue. And so, so I don't really want to get into the specifics of the meta quite yet. We'll just keep going over some of the details. So here we go. Now we're doing a little bit better. We've got Northshire Cleric. Also, this time we're going second. So I want to ditch these because these cards aren't very good. But we want this because this is probably our best card to play on turn 1, right? It's 1 mana, it's got 1 attack and 3 health, so it's kind of hard to kill. And whenever a minion is healed, I draw a card. Drawing a cards is really important and really good because it gives you more options, right? Imagine the last game, if I had just been able to do, if I had all my cards in my deck in my hand, then I would have been able to do some really cool plays. So now we're actually pretty happy because what we can do next turn is we can play this Northshire Cleric. And what we're going to hope is that our opponent can't kill it. Because if they can't, then what we can do is we can... Oh. Well, he killed it. So that's not good. But that's okay. He had to invest a resource into killing it. So he punched it with this, which took off its Divine Shield. Now, what Divine Shield is just a thing. First time it takes damage, it doesn't take damage. So what we're going to do here is... I'm actually going to use this. So if you go second, you're way behind, right? Because the other person gets to play out their mana first, and then you have to react to them. So to counterbalance this, the game does 2 things. 1, you get an extra card to start the game. So you notice he's got 3, and now we've got 6. And he's played 2 cards, and I've only played 1. But we're still up 2 cards. But one of those cards is not a normal card from our deck. It's the Coin, which is a spell that gains 1 mana this turn only. And so what I can do is I can do this, and I can now play something for 3 mana. And that helps basically so that the person going second has a chance to catch up, basically. So their hero power is equipped with 1/2 dagger. It's a weapon. And then, so he punches things with face and he takes damage with it. You were going to ask a question?
No, I lost it.
That's okay. So now we'll play a spell, Thought Steal. We're going to copy 2 cards from our opponent's deck and add them to our hand.
Oh, we have a high from
Hey,
that.
how are you doing? That's my best friend, Aiden.
Gotcha.
Alright, so we stole his Eviscerate, which we saw that card already. Deal 2 damage, and then combo deal 4. So what combo is so it means if I played another card this turn, it does the second effect instead of the first effect. And so in this case, it does a lot more. And so, let's see, we have a lot of options here. For instance, this does 2 damage to an undamaged minion. So I could, for instance, if I backstabbed this, and then I eviscerated, deal 4, I could clear all of his cards. Which isn't bad. Especially, we'd have 2 mana left over. And but we don't really have a better play. So we're going to backstab this, deal 2 damage to an undamaged minion, which is a card we got from his deck. Then we'll do this, and that's another card we got from his deck. And then we're going to heal it, because guess what? Rogue has way better cards than Priest. At least their deck. Which is good, because we got another one of those Thought Steals, so we can copy 2 cards. So one of the things to note is that, obviously, I don't get to play with all my cards every game, usually. Some games you'll draw all your cards, but that's kind of rare. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to heal ourselves for 3 with this guy. And then we're going to do this to give it a little extra health and draw a card. That way he would have to run both of these into it to kill it. But, so that's part of why people love to play card games. It's because it's not a foregone conclusion who's going to win. Because even if my deck is some better than yours, or if it's better in this matchup,
you don't draw it.
Yeah, exactly. It's and so every game has different decisions you have to make based on what you drew. In this case, I might not have had this card on turn 6. So what this is, take control of an enemy minion that has 2 or less attack. That is 2 or less attack. So we're going to go ahead and steal it. Now that's a really good tempo play, and here's why. Now he just lost a 2-1, and I just gained a 2-1, so that's pretty good. So that's Questing Adventure. Whenever he plays a card, this thing gets +1/+1. And so now he's playing a couple cards trying to get that up. Ooh. Now, so if he's gonna backstab this, he's gonna run this into that. Oh, that's interesting. Oh yeah, because that's a 5/5. Okay, so what I can do here is this is 3 attack, or 3 health rather, and 4 attack. So what I can do is if I play this bad boy, who's a 6/6, give a friendly minion plus 3 health, then this becomes a 4/6. And I can run it into that 3/3, and this is still alive. So, and that's good value. The other thing I'm going to do is this is going to probably have 6 attack next turn, right? If he does anything.
Yeah.
So I'm going to power word shield this. So it has 8 health, which makes my life a little easier. Generally speaking, force a minion to deal this damage to the minion next to it. And then that does 2 damage to that. And I assume he's gonna kill this and he's gonna trade into it. Yeah. So this has 1 health. The question is, can we deal 1 damage to it? The answer is currently, we can, and I'll show how. Anyways, what was I just saying? Frick, I lost. There's a lot to kind of keep track of right away, but then the game becomes a lot simpler. So this is a turn. Once you get into the later turns, you start to have lots of options, and so you got to spend your mana the most efficiently and find the best turn possible. And that's the key to where the players are kind of interacting. Because right on my turn, he can't do anything. On his turn, I can't do. We can't do anything. So we interact with mostly on the board, which is right here. You can have 7 minions on either side, and usually having the bigger board means you're going to win the game. And so one player often is the reactive player who's trying to remove things from the other player's board while trying to build something up, whoever's behind. While the player who's ahead is they have to do a delicate balance of not putting too much on the board, because sometimes there'll be like a card that's like deal 3 damage to everything. If I had that in my hand right now, I could just kill everything, right? And so if he overcommits, that's bad. But he needs to commit enough to kill me. And so what we're going to do is this card, my cards and powers that restore health deal damage instead. Now if we recall, this heals for 2. So I play this, and I heal that for 2, it'll actually kill it. And I think that was our best play there, because that thing was getting out of control. It had a lot of attack. So now he's going to probably punch this and then hit this twice. He misplayed. So a misplay is when you do something that's just wrong. In this case, our opponent is going to re-dagger right now and get another 1/2 dagger. Now what did he do to start this turn? He gave his weapon plus 2 attack. So if he had done a new dagger, he'd still have a 3/1 dagger now instead of a 1/2. And I would say a dagger with 3 attack is better than that one. So what we can do here...
But he's still beating you.
He's winning, but I think we might be able to win this one. So we have probably... Because look at how many cards we have in hand. He's got nothing left. He's on what's called top deck mode. He can only play whatever he tops off the deck. And so if we can stabilize, it's going to be very hard for him to beat us, right? And here's our first step. We're going to play this big boy, 7/7, that doubles the damage and healing of our spells and our hero power. So now our hero power that heals for 2 normally heals for 4. And he has to deal with this giant 7/7. Which he can with that, unfortunately. Ooh, is he punching it? Oh, he just took a lot of damage. So what he's hoping to do, that's a kind of a misplay too, because he could just kill it. But anyway, so what we can do is we can just heal this, and he heals for 4, so that's up to 7/5. And then we'll just we'll slam down both of these 4/5s. Shogun Yeti is an example of what's called like a vanilla minion. It's a 4 mana 4/5, and so it's got no special effects. It doesn't do anything special, but 4 mana for 4 attack and 5 health is pretty good. Generally speaking, anything with its mana, and then if it has the same attack and health as its mana, that's like a baseline okay. And then anything better than that's really good. So like this is a 3/5. We could move 1 health over. It's kind of a 4 mana 4/4, and then it has this extra effect. These were 4 mana 4/5s, and so that can be really useful. And so what we're gonna do is we're first gonna steal some cards from his deck. We'll see what we get. Ooh, drawing cards is always good. And we'll do this, and then we're just gonna heal this guy up. And now our opponent has 2 health. We actually had lethal there. So one thing you can note is missed lethal is a great phrase. It means that you could have killed them and you didn't. Okay. Missing lethal is usually not consequential. Like here, it doesn't matter that he's at 2 health, I can still win. But last turn, if I just punched with these and done 8 damage, and then played this guy, that does, remember from before, where it does 2 damage, then I could have just killed him that way. So we missed lethal, and that's okay. Here, I'm gonna ask my friend if he wants to play. Play 1. So we'll play 1 game with my friend on stream. This will be our last practice game. Alright. So the reason why he wants to play me is because we have a deal where you get daily quests. And my daily quest is, we're gonna play Classic Priest. I'm gonna say, let me win. I gotta get one more with Priest, which is true. I need to win 3 games with Priest to do my quest. And those quests will give you gold, and with gold you can buy packs, which give you more cards, right? And so I have a quest that's Challenge a Friend, and it gives us both 80, which is a lot. Normally they give you 50, and it's both of us. And so we're just gonna try to beat him up. This is actually a good hand. We have our 1-drop that we can play on 1. We have 2s, and we have a 3. Now, our friend is going to be playing a meta deck. Like, this is just all basic cards. Because this is like the Blizzard is the creator of this game, and it's just like every deck this deck is like the beginner deck. And so it's not very good from a competitive standpoint. Because the good cards are going to be released in expansions. And then the way that Hearthstone works is there's 3 expansions a year, and every year the expansions from 2 years ago rotate out into what's called wild mode. So we're just gonna do this, and we're gonna trade. And so we're just trying to build up the presence on board. Having stuff in play is really good. Ooh, he's gonna kill our guy. And so that's a 3/2 weapon. So that's a little annoying, but that's okay. So we're gonna do something. All right, so I know that one of the secrets that Paladin has is called Noble Sacrifice, and it's when I try to attack, it'll be a 2/1 that this will attack instead, which would kill us. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna heal it first, and then we're gonna attack. It wasn't that, but because these also, whenever minions heal, we draw a card. We were able to draw 2 cards because the minion was healed and they both procced that effect. We're doing pretty good so far. Since Priest's identity is all kind of about healing things, so you see like that's what this deck is all about, like giving minions more health, right? This minion's attack is equal to its health, double your healing and damage. This one does 4 damage to himself, so 3 mana 4/7 would be amazing. If we thought before, I was like, compare the mana cost to the attack and health. A 3 mana 3/3 is baseline, so 3 mana 4/7 is obviously insane value, right? Really good. Problem is right when I play him, he is going to do a bunch of damage to himself. But we can now play our coin. Oops. Oh, yeah. So that was one of his secrets. When your opponent casts a spell, give your minions +2 health. And now we have 2, so we can do this. And that's going to heal. Then we're going to get to draw some more cards. And as we noted before, drawing cards is really good. There's that card I was telling you about before, Noble Sacrifice. So he played it this last turn with this guy. And so we'll talk about what that does. And when Battlecry and Death Rattle. That's really useful terms. Battlecry means this does something when you play it. Death Rattle means when this dies, it does something. In this case, they're the same thing. Put a secret that is normally in his deck into the battlefield. We actually don't have very many Battle Cries. So this is a Battle Cry, restore 3 health. We don't have very many of those. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna punch our opponents in the face. I want to see what that is. Okay, and then we're gonna play this guy, restore 3 health. So give this guy back his health. We draw 2 more cards.
Jesus.
And we've actually made a mistake. This is because this is the most common card seen in Priest. People call this going full Northshire because if you can only have 10 cards in your hand, and so my hand is full, and so I can play this, but that draws a card. So I'm going to mill a card. What that means is that I'm gonna draw a card, and it's just gonna go. It'll fade away into the Nether because I can't have more than 10. I could play this 0 mana card, but that heals things too, which would mean I would draw more cards. So we're stuck in the middle. So we give this minion, our good guy, some extra stuff. And we're going to trade into that. Ooh, what's this? Ooh, when one of your opponent's minions is attacked, or one of your minions, give it Divine Shield. And as we've covered, Divine Shield means the first damage it takes is negated. And we'll just trade that into there. And we'll... Ooh. So what we're going to do is we're going to play the circle. It restores 4 health to all minions. And what that means is that we'll draw a card from this. And then we'll... So we basically traded, instead of having this get milled, we kind of chose to mill the 0 cost spell. And usually if something costs less mana, it's less value. And so that's an important value and tempo, which is kind of something that we talked about last week with StarCraft. And this is just something we're going to see across all strategy games especially. And so he knows that I want to win, so he's buffing my minions, which is very nice of him. This is not how a typical game goes. So now he's even going to punch it with his face. He's like, please kill me. So we'll kill him real fast. Do we have lethal here? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we're 1 off lethal, but this does 2 damage to all enemy stuff. And then, alright. But so it's a lot to try to parse through a deck when okay, so this is like we finished the quest, we got 80 gold, and we finished our win 3 games with Priest. I won 2 of them earlier today, and so we got 60 for that, which is good because I'm going on to a wedding this weekend. I won't have very much time to play. And so now our quest docket, we used to have 2 here, is gone. So it's 3:30, so let's go ahead and let's move on to oh, here, I'll send a message. Serious.
Wow.
See, that's what happens when your hand is in the wrong part of the serious play. Is the channel, by the way. All right, so let's go ahead, and we're gonna play some games in ranked mode. We're just gonna go right into playing it. Like, so ranked mode is there's different ranks. Like I'm rank 5 right now. Every 5 is like a bottoming out. So no matter how many games we lose today, we won't go below 5. But normally you'll gain a star every time you win a game and lose a star every time you lose a game. There's things, if you get on a win streak, which is 3 or more, you'll start gaining 2 at a time until you lose 1. Except for once you actually get to rank 5, that stops happening. So rank 5 is usually where I stop trying to climb every month, and then I'll just, I reset and then I try to climb again. And so I've got a bunch of different decks here that I've prepared for us to play today. The 2 that I want to make sure to get to for sure are this mage deck and this rogue deck. And the reason why is that the competitive games we're going to watch in about an hour are going to feature these 2 decks going against each other. Meanwhile, we've got some other decks here. So I want to go over just a little bit. There's different kinds of decks, like deck archetypes in a card game. But in general, they all revolve around the question of, and this is not my own technically original idea. This is a more of a this is like there's been articles written about this online, but it's called Who's the Beatdown, and what that means is like which player is the one who's trying to kill the other person first, right? And so generally speaking, one player is trying to stabilize, which means that their deck has more value, more higher cost cards, things that allow them to keep playing cards later and later into the game. And one deck has more tempo, which means they have cards that they can play earlier and faster and so one is trying to go under the other and one is trying to go over the other person. And so decks that go over the other person are typically called control decks, like this one. They'll feature things like this guy who's healing. He was actually in our other game. Or big minions like this gigantic 8/8 that costs 1 less for every other card in our hand, which means that if we're a control deck, we want to mass up value, we want to mass up cards in our hand, right? We want our opponent to have no cards and for us to have a full hand. That helps us win the game. A control deck might feature a card like Twisting Nether, which will just destroy all the minions, but it's very expensive, right? But you can imagine that if I'm able to play this, I might just win the game because I've killed all your minions and you might not have much to reload or much else to play. Meanwhile, you might have a deck that's an aggro deck, and you'll note almost immediately, I want to note the mana curves of these. So this one, it goes from 1 all the way to 12, and you can see there's like a curve here. And as you can see, we mostly have 4s, and we have quite a few 5s and 7+ mana cards, and a couple 6s, right? So the mana cost's a lot higher. This deck, which is our aggro deck, which is almost always going to be going under the opponent. There's some rare exceptions where one deck is more aggro. This one has a lot of 2s, right? So you can see this deck needs to play out its early cards quick and get it up to a fast start. And it's going to utilize the tribal synergies, in this case, because it's called Mech Hunter, of the mechs. And so a mech is just a tribe, it's little robot guys. And so this one reduces the cost of other mechs in your hand by 1. This one right here is going to draw a mech from your deck when it dies. This one right here has got magnetic, which means it can, instead of playing it as a minion, you can play it as a buff onto another mech. So you can see in this deck, I'm trying to play all these mechs together because their combined power is going to be much greater. And through that combined power, I'm hoping to kill my opponent really fast. Meanwhile, so that's the natural way of things, is control versus aggro. One deck is trying to go over and under the other one. But there's a lot of things in between and outside of that. So a deck that's kind of in between combo, control, and aggro that's in Hearthstone is often called a mid-range deck. And what a mid-range deck is trying to do often is it's kind of in between. It doesn't have a lot of control cards, but it's not necessarily as light on the mana cards as like B2. Instead, it's usually trying to play a really good card every turn. It's trying to just play a good card every turn of the game, and they're trying so against in that case against an aggro deck, mid-range deck is the control deck. They're trying to outlast the aggro and then they'll win. Meanwhile, against a control deck, the mid-range deck is trying to go under them, right? It's trying to kill them. And so it's really, really important in card games to know who you are. Are you the beatdown deck? Are you trying to kill the opponent as fast as possible? Or are you the control deck? Are you trying to wait it out? And if you can stabilize, you'll win. But there's a third kind of deck. And this deck throws everyone else for a loop. They're called combo decks. And what a combo deck is there's two different kinds of combo decks in general. One is like no matter what, they're trying to draw certain cards and do some sort of really broken combo that will win them the game, ideally. Some of these will just instantly win you the game. For instance, there used to be a mage deck called Exodia Mage, because once they got all the cards they needed, they just would play them all in one turn and win. Like no matter what the opponent's life total was at, they just instantly win. Other combo decks are like light combo decks, which is what we have here and for this Cyclone Mage, which has a lot of different ways to win. But the primary way that it's trying to win is through this card, Mountain Giant, which we saw in the other one. We got a lot of crossover between the neutral cards, so even though we're in a different class. But we got this card. Destroy a minion, summon 2 minions of the same cost to replace it, which is cheap. It's only 3 mana. So if we can play this guy and then play this, we're going to get 2 of him. So not only is he big, but having 2 of him, that's like really hard to beat, right? And so this deck is often trying to assemble this crazy combo. And once they do that, the opponent's going to have a hard time killing those. And then this is another thing. This is Twin Spell, which means he can play it twice. So suddenly, you just have all these 8/8s. The problem is you might not draw all those. So this kind of deck will often include spells like draw 2 cards, or where is our Stargazer? After you play the rightmost card in your hand, draw a card. And so it's looking to draw lots and lots of cards. A, to keep these guys cheap, and B, to try to just assemble the combo in general. So it has ways to stall out, like this Frost Nova, freeze all enemy minions, which, as the name implies, they can't attack on the next turn, and then they can attack after that. This particular deck is one of the most complicated decks in the game to run, because not only does it include this crazy package of big minions plus making multiple copies of them, it also has all these cheap little spells to combine with this guy, Mana Cyclone, which is for every spell I cast this turn, add a random mage spell to my hand. So the goal in that case is to play a bunch of these cheap spells and then slam down this guy, and suddenly I get a bunch of more spells. So that's called a lot of value, right? And so this deck is often it needs to figure out what it's doing in each matchup, but it's the first deck we're gonna play today. Now, I put Cyclone Mage 2.0, and that's because I had a Cyclone Mage up here, and then there was this is what I want to show everyone.
So do you create this deck yourself, or is it you buy the pack and it says, oh, you like suggested decks?
That is a great question. So there are suggested decks. We can click New Deck and we can make a deck ourselves. So we'll go to Mage. And there's some suggested decks here. There's Classic Mage, Khadgar's Creation, which is kind of similar to our deck. You'll see there's no Mountain Giants, but it is running this card. And the Archmages of Dalaran, which is running this guy. So like some of the cards are overlapping, but normally every player worth their salt is going to make a custom deck. And they're going to fill it with a particular set of cards that they think is the most powerful. But most people who play Hearthstone, so we're not going to save that deck. Obviously we didn't put, we don't need that deck. But there's something called a meta, and this is the thing. You have 30 cards to play with however you want. I could build a Druid deck right now, custom. I just start clicking on cards. I'm just adding them to my deck, right? And this is probably going to be a really terrible deck, right? But that was a really good question. So the deck is you're free to play with your deck as long as you're using the cards that are legal in the format. So in this case, we've got there's standard cards, which is like like I said before, sets are always rotating out every year. And so this is the cards that are in standard mode, and then all cards. And these are the cards that are from all the sets that have ever existed in Hearthstone. We're playing standard games, and because standard changes a lot more, and so it's more fun to play from a competitive perspective, because the same powerful cards don't always exist, right? They rotate out. And then so there's new powerful cards to play with, and that makes the game feel fresh and exciting. And so, what I wanted to show you guys today is this. This is the Versus Data Reaper Report. And what this is they collect data on what decks are people playing in Hearthstone. They create like what are the most popular decks. In this case, Bomb Hunter is the most popular deck we can see here, and Hunter itself is the most popular with 24% of all decks being played in competitive are Hunter decks. Meanwhile, we see Warlock is the loser. Only 4% of people playing Hearthstone, at least competitively, are playing Warlock decks right now. So you can use this as like your starting point for what is popular and what decks are people playing. And you can see the deck we're about to play, Cyclone Mage, is right here in the middle. Even though I think it's really good, I'm surprised more people aren't playing it. This shows the popularity over time, doesn't really matter. But the point is we can scroll down and then we can get the list. So like here, Bomb Hunter. We can open it up in a new tab, and bam, that's the list. Okay. We can copy it under a thing. So a lot of times, you'll be stealing other people's decks when you're trying to be at least really competitive.
Yeah.
And a lot of the competitive players are going to run a lot of similar decks. But it's also really fun, and like the joy, for different players have different joys for playing Hearthstone. For me, I love creating my own decks, but I also like doing well, right? And so sometimes copying some pro player's deck or some streamer's deck can be really useful for having a good time, right? If you really want to win, which is oftentimes losing is not fun. So sometimes you make your own deck and you're like, oh, this is trash. Like I tried so hard to make this thing work. But sometimes, like my first time I ever reached rank 5, which is called Dad Legend, because once you get to rank 1 and then you get 5 stars in rank 1 and then win one more game, you reach a different kind of the game called Legend Mode, where you have a number and there's like a person who's number 1 in the world, or number 1 in the region really, because or there's somebody who's number 1,000, as opposed to this where we're just rank 5 and when we're with the stars and everything. So for this, we're looking at Mulligan. We're gonna draw against Rogue. We might think we're thinking we're probably the control deck in this case. So we might want to keep this card, which has Lifesteal, which will heal us a little bit, but it's a little expensive, so we're not going to. We're going to keep Mountain Giant because it's going to get cheaper as we're going to keep drawing cards, and then we're going to be able to play it and maybe do our combo. You can see already we got a pretty control-oriented deck just by the opening hand. Expensive card, cards that freeze enemy minions, and also potentially deal damage to it. This is an okay opening hand. But the problem is this card is useless right now. Like, it's very expensive. It's useful because, as you can see, set of heroes remaining health to 15. I could heal myself with that, or I could lower him from where he is now. So we're just going to hero power his face. He only hero powered us last turn. So that means at least he's got a slow opening, right? He's not playing a bunch of stuff on turns 1 and 2. He's actually likely playing the deck that we're going to be playing later in the stream, which is the most popular rogue deck right now, which is Spear the Shark Rogue. So a big part of Hearthstone is knowing when to play your cards and when to preserve your resources. In this case, I could play this. And so the question is, do I want to?
You're also at 8 right now.
I think I want to wait one turn too. So my question right now is, and like we're gonna see some combos right now. So our combo is that our spells cost 1 less with this, which means that these have Twin Spell, which is a new mechanic from the most recent set, but that just means you cast it once, you get a new copy that does not have Twin Spell on it. Meanwhile, we also have this. The next elemental we play this turn costs 2 less. Guess what's an elemental? This guy. And so we can actually play this for 0, this guy who's really good. So we're gonna go off here. So I'm gonna do that. I have to move pretty fast. I discover a spell that's cheap. Do I want Shooting Star or do I want Arcane Missiles? That's the question. I think I want Arcane Missiles. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go stab him with one of these, and then freeze the minion. If it's already frozen, deal 2 damage to it. And then I'm going to play this, deal 3 damage randomly across all enemy. It hit his face. I really wanted to kill this thing. Because you can see how shrouded, that means it got stealth. I can't target it this turn. And then we're going to play the Mana Cyclone here. That's going to fill our hand with new random spells, which is pretty useful. And since we have a bunch of mana, because we have 2 mana left over, add 2 random minions to our hand, that would put us at 10 cards, which would not be useful. So instead we'll play, when a minion attacks our hero, destroy it. That's just a secret. But the thing is, our opponent doesn't know what the secret is, so he might try to play around it more than he should, which is kind of what we want. So that was a crazy turn, but this is kind of a crazy deck. It's a combo deck, so we're looking to play lots of stuff at once. So that's a card we saw before. Backstab, deal 2 damage to non-damaged minion. we definitely want to kill this. So what this does is his battle cries and combos trigger twice. So he's built his whole deck likely around this card. And we know that because we have this deck later on in the stream as we'll be playing this. Battle cry, draw a card, he gets to draw 2 cards instead. You see how how those are incremental advantages that are just going to slowly add up and help him win the game. And so what I want to do here is I could play this guy, right? This costs 1 less for each card in my hand. But I really want to get that combo where I cast that spell on him, right? And so for this turn, what I want to do is I'm going to... First I'm going to add... Okay, so you want to plan out your turn before you play any cards. In this case, I know I want to kill this, because this could get out of hand. So I want to probably deal 3 damage to a character. I can deal that 3 damage to this and kill it. That's pretty useful. The second thing, now I have to make a decision. Now this is going to destroy a minion that attacks my hero. If I leave up this 1/1, then my opponent can just attack with the 1/1 and lose it. If I only give him the 3/3, right? If that's the only thing left on his board and he attacks in, it'll kill it.
Yeah.
And that's pretty useful. So I think what we'll do is we're going to do this, and we'll ping off that. So we've preserved some value because we whenever we use our hero power, we're saving from playing a card, which is useful. Yeah. And so we're pretty happy with this right now. Yep, and there we go. So we effectively killed this 3/3 rather than killing his 1/1 because our opponent he knows that this secret exists and he would likely play around it. That's the best card in his deck. So what this does is it adds 2 lackeys to his hand. Lackeys are these 1 mana minions that are 1 mana 1/1s. This is 2 mana 1/1, but they're 1 mana 1/1s and they're very powerful. This is really good. The question is, do we want to play this turn? I think the answer is yes. So this is going to change the cost of all the minions in our deck to 1 mana.
Oh shit.
And so that is going to let us do some crazy stuff later in the game. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this. And then the question is, do we want to do this? Deal 1 damage to a minion and the minions next to it. We could do that right here and kill this 1/1. I don't think it's worth it, so we're just going to end our turn. You can see in the very first turn when we were just in the mulligan, I said, I think we're the control deck. And you can see throughout this game, we've mostly been removing his things while he's been kind of putting more things on the board. And now he's got quite a large board. The fortunate thing is he hasn't put a lot of pressure. We're still at 23 health, which is quite a bit. Generally speaking, obviously anything lower is bad, but 23 is pretty good compared to the thing. So this is like one of his little 1/1s. Transform a minion into one that costs 1 more. So he turned this 1/4 into a 3/5. He could have, ooh, Sea Dive. Alright, so this costs 1 less for every other minion on the battlefield. The question right now is, do we want to start freezing his stuff? And I think the answer is kind of. So what I want to do is I'm gonna start by adding 2 random minions to our hand. I just want to see what I get. Ooh, Missile Launcher is pretty good. At the end of your turn, deal 1 damage to all other characters, which would be all these minions and both our faces. Unfortunately, it's a little too expensive right now. Wind Fury Harpy has Wind Fury, which means that it can attack twice instead of 1. So you can see that there's a tooltip there that helps out, which you probably have already seen. So this guy, I'm just like, I'm automatically processing all these things. Like, I know that this, when he casts a spell, it summons a 1/1. Which means that makes this better, because this could kill 3 1/1s.
Yeah.
What I want to do is I think I want to play... Do I want to play this Sea Giant? It's only 0 mana 8/8.
I'm like anxious watching this thing go down.
Oh yeah. A good player knows that... and we'll kill that. A good player knows that roping is good. If you go to the rope, that means you're thinking about your play really critically. The issue is that we were running kind of low on cards, our space in our hand. What we really want is we want cards that are going to be drawing us cards soon, because all our minions cost 1 in here, but not up here. So the faster we get the minions that cost 1, it looks like our opponent is about to have an Edwin turn. And what an Edwin turn is there's this card called Edwin Van Cleef, and it's for every card you play this turn, gain +2/+2. Oh, it doesn't look like it because it costs 3. Yeah, okay. There's our opponent. They filled their board. Ooh, wait. Oh, he sapped this. Okay, I was like, why did that happen? So what sap does is a card that he played last turn. Return a minion, enemy minion to your opponent's hand. So we return this to our hand, and then we mill the card because we were at 9. And so that was unfortunate. but we'll survive. So we have quite a few options here. I think what I want to do is I want to replay this guy. And I'm going to Frost Nova. Oop, not that. Frost Nova. Freeze all enemy minions. Because, and now we're not going to kill one of these. Do you know why? You can only have 7 minions on the field of play at once. So, our opponent can't play any minions. And that's pretty good for us, at least. The issue is that we're kind of running low on our ability to control the enemy's board. Like that was, we actually milled the other Frost Nova in your deck. No, you can only have 2 of a card in your deck unless it is like this one where it's got that little yellow thing. That means it's a legendary. And legendary minions, you can only run 1 in your deck. Because they have very unique and powerful effects. That's really good. Summon a minion with a random minion with a cost equal to our hand size. So in this case, it's going to summon us a random minion that costs 8 mana. For 1 mana, that's a 5/5 plus. There we go. That's pretty good. Plus a 4/9. And this thing will get 6 attack, and it has charge, which means it can attack the turn it's played. And so we have to think for a second, what else do we want to... Our opponent's like, amazing. I hate you, man. Alright, so we're going to do this, which will clear both the 1/1s, and then if we ping this, then we can get in. And now we're just going to try to control the board. So we'll do this and this. Because we just kill his biggest things, right? And then the question is, do I want to coin out anything? And I think the answer is no. Do I want to freeze this? And I think the answer to that is actually also no. I think we just want to just relax and chill. The only issue is we're actually kind of low.
Yeah.
We're going to freeze this. Okay. The reason why I wanted to freeze that is because I know one of his best combos is this minion called Leroy, which is like this, can attack the turn it's played. And it does 6, and then you could Shadow Step it, which means return it to his hand, and play it again to deal 6 more damage, which would be 12. And so that would have left Leroy's Shadow Step as those are those 2 cards as 12 plus this 3, 4, 5. That would have been enough to kill me. It would have been 17. So a big part of the game is learning to play around whatever's in your opponent's hand. So now we'll see if our opponent... I don't think he'll be able to kill us, but now we're getting to the point where our health is a little too low to not play around our opponent killing us. What we would ideally like, and this is an issue, he's got a lot of burst damage in his deck, which means he can do damage from his hand really quickly to our face. Ideally, we'd want him to not have that, get us like 1, and then we can just set our health back to 15 and be like, haha, I got you. Alright, so this is Echo. Echo is a mechanic where you can play this as much as you want on the turn it's played, kind of like Twin Spell, but then it goes away after that turn. So a little better than Twin Spell here, because he could cast it a bunch of times. A little worse than Twin Spell normally, because you saw that we played this card like on turn 2, and then we played the second one on turn 9.
Yeah.
Ooh, this card is spell damage. So spell damage means that if you have a spell like this, deal 6 damage. With spell damage plus 1, deal 7 damage instead. That's what we want to see. We're going to definitely want to draw 2 cards. Because we have like all those 1-cost minions. Alright, add 2 bananas to your hand. Banana gives our minions +1/+1. Alright, so how do we want to do this? So we definitely want to play this. The question is, what do we want to do with the rest of the turn? So what I want to do is I'm going to play this and this. I'm going to trade this 5... I know it's kind of weird to trade a 5/3 into the... Well... This is a good question. We'll do this and this. Because this is going to deal 1 damage to everything, so it'll kill these 1/1s, but it'll also let these both at 1 health. Now, rogues typically run a card, well, not always, but this deck sometimes runs a card called Fan of Knives, which does 1 damage to all enemy minions. If he has that card, dead, dead, dead.
Yeah.
Very bad. So I thought about playing around Fan of Knives by trading the 5/3 into the 3/3, and then trading the 8/5 into the other minion. Ooh. Dead. We're not dead to Leroy Shadow Step because it costs 8 mana. Our opponent is definitely in a behind position, though. You can tell that they're playing a lot of their cards. Oh, so he just shuffled 8 copies of this deal 3, heal 3 to your face minion. So he's just hoping, he's like, if I play enough of this guy, you're gonna die. Which is very, very true. Let's see, what do we want to do here? That is really good. So this, after you play the rightmost card in your hand, draw a card. So this could string together a bunch of cards. So we're gonna do this. This will draw us 3 cards, but we're okay with that. Finally, we get you. Okay, so what do we want to do here? Okay, so what I want to do here is I'm going to play this Mountain Giant. This is the combo we've been waiting for. Alright, we play the coin, which we've been saving this whole time.
Yep.
And now we can do this. And this might give us a taunt minion. No, it didn't. Alright, so then what we're going to do is we're going to trade this 5/5 into that. And we're going to trade this 2/1 into this. And what that does is this will do 1 damage to everything, so it'll finish off this guy. Now, here's the thing. We just set up lethal. Because these do 8, that's 16. This can set his health to 15. So, if he doesn't kill us here, or kill these minions, we win. He might be able to just kill us. No. Okay, so we win. And the reason we win is because we set up lethal. And this is a very important part of Hearthstone and any card game, is setting up at turns where your opponent has to do something, or else you just win. So in this case, we set his health to 15. And then we're just going to punch him twice. Yep. And he saw, the second he sees this card, he went down here, he clicked this, and he clicked concede. Now, we don't have it because we're not actually in the game now.
Yeah.
But people do that all the time. The second you know you've lost, like, whether it's because, like, let's say you're the aggro deck and your opponent's still at 30 and you run out of cards. Yeah. I'm never going to win this game, so I'm just going to quit. And so, let's see, it's 3:51. Let's play one more game with this mage deck, and then we'll switch to the hunter deck, and then we'll round it out, I think, with the rogue deck. And we might play one game with the warlock just to get an idea of playing with a control deck. But the thing is, and what can be tricky about kind of trying to teach you guys but Hearthstone, is that there's the fundamentals, and then there's also the nuances of a particular deck. So it's kind of like, do I want to show you guys a bunch of different kinds of decks and talk about the fundamentals, or do I want to play like the same deck to give you more of an idea of like what it's like to try to ladder and play the same deck over? So Shaman, we're going to assume that our Shaman opponent is an aggro deck. And the reason why I'm going to assume that is because most of the Shamans I've seen, and if we go over to the versus meta report, this is actually useful. Sometimes you're like, what Shaman, what could this be? And you're like, alright, Murloc Shaman, aggro, aggro Shaman, aggro. And then these are some control decks. But, so we get a quick idea of, oh, more likely that this Shaman opponent is that. We keep the Mountain Giant because it's the best card in our deck. This is the best anti-aggro card in our deck. And so I'm actually going to keep it. Could be a big mistake because it's 5. It's kind of expensive, but so we can. It's actually really useful. No, this guy, he costs 1 less for each other minion on the battlefield. Yeah. So again, like these minions are expensive, but in theory, I can get it cheaper. This is a blow-up card. So remember how we destroy a minion and summon 2 copies? Your cards that summon minions summon twice as many. So we can have 4 of this guy in 1 turn, which is obviously insane. That is amazing. And here's the biggest issue. We can't kill it. Ideally, we'd want to kill this turn, because this card gets out of control. This is a 2-mana, 2/3 Murloc. Whenever he plays a Murloc, add another Murloc to his hand. Random one. Any Murloc in the whole game can be added to his hand. He just played a Murloc. So, you can see why that's not good for us, because he's an aggro deck. He's trying to kill us fast. Oh, and you got the same guy. This is also a very good minion. Yeah. So, you can see that he's just suddenly flooding the board, but also what's happening? His hand is staying a big size. So that's really bad for us. So now we can kill this, and so we're going to. So this, because remember, this card freezes a minion, but if it's already frozen, it deals 2 damage instead. Yep. So we kill it. Because seriously, if that card lives, we're screwed. Now the question is, do we want to kill this 1/1? His other Murlocs have +1 attack. We could ping it next. We could just coin and ping to kill it. The issue with doing that is that next turn, what are we doing? I don't know. Next turn we want to coin Ziliax, which is a 3/2. Now we can talk about these. Divine Shield, first damage it takes is 0. Yeah. Taunt, the enemy has to attack this before they can attack anything else. Lifesteal, any damage it deals, I gain back in health. And Rush, this can attack the turn it's played. A little different than Charge. Charge can attack anywhere, Rush can only attack minions. So now and we could also do this, summons 2 0/2 minions with Taunt, which means that I have to attack those first. The issue is I feel like next turn we have nothing to do if I play this coin. And if I play this 0/2s, if I get a bunch of 0/2s, he's just going to run into them with these 3/1s, so it'll save me 6 health. 1 mana heal 6 actually seems pretty good. The issue is that we want to keep our hand size big because this guy, he's getting more expensive every time we play a card, right? Yep. So we have to be thinking about that. But in this, again, to go back to our fundamentals, very clearly game where we are the control deck. We have to just survive off. This is a weird one. Whenever I play a spell, he gets a copy of that spell. Which means that card is really good. Okay, so what we're going to do here is... Ooh, this is a tricky turn. The reason why it's tricky is we're going into turn 5. Turn 5 against Shaman, when they're a aggro deck, they have a card called Bloodlust, which gives all their minions +3 attack. If he plays Bloodlust, he would have 6, just from Bloodlust would be 6, or 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18 damage, plus he has 6 here, 24, 25, 26, 27. So, our opponent can kill us if they have Bloodlust in hand. Now, no, we know a lot of these cards are not Bloodlust, but random Murlocs he got off the Underbelly Angler he played on turn 2. So, we could play this 8-8 and just hope that he just doesn't have, right, Bloodlust. Or we could coin Ziliax. Problem if we coin Ziliax, he gets a coin from this, which... Okay. So we're going to take a chance. We're going to say, you don't have Bloodlust, sir. Or ma'am. Christian. That's his name up here. If he has... Oh, did he top deck it? So what? We'll sit here. If he plays Bloodlust, we just hit the concede button, because we've done the math. Nope. That's not Bloodlust. It's almost as good. His other Murlocs have +2 attack. But he's trading into this. So that's good. Ooh. Opponent just made a mistake. Like we said before, there's this comment, like, misplays. So the misplay our opponent made is that he could have done 1 more damage to us, but he didn't. Now, we're not sitting pretty, but this thing has 3 attack, that thing has 3 health, we spend all our mana, we get to heal 3, we get to kill this, and our opponent has to, it's still alive, so our opponent has to run something into it. And so that's good for us. The issue is that we're really far behind, and this card is kind of blocking us out, because when we cast spells, we'll give him copies, which we really don't want to do. And so this card will discuss, transform his minions into random legendary minions. Interestingly, he gave me that card just now. Okay. Wow. Okay, so we just lost. So this is a okay card. Remember how we said that there's some minions you can only put 1 of in your deck? This card transforms all your minions into random minions that you can only put 1 of it in your deck. Random other legendary minions. Now I will say, these 2 are the best 2 legendary minions to get off that effect. And this one's really good too. There's a lot of ones that are like this, a little 2/2. So you could get a really bad one. Our opponent got a really good one. So what we're going to want to do here is we need to have a crazy turn. This is not the start of a crazy turn. We're going to try to freeze our enemies and minions, and to do that we need to draw cards. That's good. Okay, so what we can do is we'll freeze this, and we're going to freeze this, and then we're going to do Elemental Evocation, which sets this down to 0, and we'll do this. We need to find more freeze effects. We didn't. Okay. We're going to do this because we're... even though we're not going to play anything, and we're going to keep this up because it's got Taunt, which means at least I'll have to run this 2/2 into it.
And Are you going to heal yourself?
Huh?
Can you use the hero?
No, that was Priest. This one does 1 damage.
Oh, okay.
His one summons a random totem. Okay, so we're in a really bad spot. We do have a way out of this. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, wait. I goofed. If I kept the coin, I could have done a pretty crazy turn. Now we're going to have to think for a second about what we want to do. How do we... Alright, so the question is, how do we win this game? It's going to be tough. Yeah, this would have been easier last turn, but we're going to do this. There are taunt minions we can get when we destroy this minion and add 2 minions at the same cost. So those are 2 taunt minions. You can run this and this into it, and then he still is lethal. So because he still is lethal, we just concede. That would be called lethal on board. Unfortunately we were the control deck, right? We were trying to stabilize, and we were just unable to stabilize. In part because he got really good minions off of that 1 spell, and that's okay. That sometimes happens. So let's go ahead and we're gonna move on to our Lackey Rogue. Now I have way less wins with Rogue. As you can tell, 420 there, 689 there, 237 there, 14 there. But with Rogue, only 89. This deck, we actually saw already. But this deck relies on, it's kind of I put in Tombo next to it, because it has some really good combos, but mostly it's trying to have tempo turns, which means a single turn where it does a lot of stuff at once. And that lot of stuff is just good enough to propel it to victory. So, We don't want to keep the expensive guy, and we probably don't want to keep this, and we don't want to keep this. But we'll keep this. This is a combo, deal 2 damage. Now, normally I wouldn't keep this, but we're going second, which means we have the coin. Which means on turn 2, I can play coin, and then I've activated the combo, and I get a 3/3. Yeah. Which means that this is a great tempo play, as in, like, it's doing a lot for the mana that I'm paying. I'm paying really 2 mana, but I'm getting a lot. Backstab is a great tempo card. Deal 2 damage to an enemy minion for 0 mana. If I'm spending all my mana as well as using this, I'm doing crazy stuff. So if our opponent is the deck that we just saw, this deck is going to be better suited against that. Now, even though the reason why I call it a Tombo deck is because we have a lot of deck cards that we want to synergize with each other. In this case, this card's really good. Add 2 random lackeys to our hand. And so we're actually going to play that this turn. We're going to coin it out because it's a combo. So we've activated combo. We add 2 lackeys to our hand. Like I said before, lackeys are 1 mana 1/1s with powerful effects. So deal 1 mana 1/1 deal 2 damage. Compare this to the 3 mana 3/3 combo deal 2 damage. You see that this card is clearly a lot better. Even though it's got a little less attack and health, it's way better for its mana cost. This one, discover a spell, which means it'll give me 3 random spells. I get to pick one, and it's mine forever until I play it. So what do we want to do here? It's kind of a tricky turn. The reason why is we could do a high tempo play. That would be like backstab this, SI, 7 agent, this. We could kill both of these things, but they both have 0 attack. They're not too harmful. This will heal all of his minions for 1, and this is taunt. So they have little nuisances, but they're not too bad. But I think what I want to do is I want to play this and this. I just want to draw more cards. So this is in effect drawing a card because I'm discovering a spell. So I could have Vanish, return all minions to their own hand, Deadly Poison, give your minion +2 attack, or Pickpocket, add a random card to your hand from your opponent's class. Now I think that I am the aggro deck here. My opponent has not done anything but press this hero power button. So I'm going to go ahead and I could pick Deadly Poison for more attack, but I think this is better because I can add a bunch of random cards and then I'll draw a card. And then we're going to punch this, even though it doesn't matter. It's going to get healed up next turn by 1, but this is better. So this is the card that we saw before. Our battle cries and combos triggered twice. It can be really useful. Okay, so we're definitely the aggro deck here. So what I want to do is I want to prepare for... Ooh, I made a mistake. It's okay. Do I want to kill that? No. So I just made a bunch of complex decisions and a mistake while, ooh, he's this deck. Okay, this is a fun deck. So he can only have big minions because his deck is revolving around this card, which is, we'll have to look at it. Transform into a 4/4 copy of a different minion in your deck. And so you can see why you would want to only have big, cool, strong minions in your deck. But what we can do here is we can have a pretty crazy turn. So I'm going to play this, which adds 2 lackeys to our hand. Our combo is triggered twice, it's going to add 4. So I need to clear my hand out. So we're going to backstab this. Then we're going to deal 2 damage twice. So we can kill that, which is good. And then we play this, and it will add 4 lackeys to our hand, which means we have a full hand. So we're going to want to play 1. Transform a minion into one that costs 1 more, deal 4 damage. This is really one that costs 2 more. So what we're going to do is we're going to Witch Lackey... Ooh, do we want to... Yeah. So we're going to Witch Lackey this. And then it will give us a random 5-drop. Ooh, that's a bad one. A 4/2? You know, if we're thinking a 5/5 would be nice, right? So a 4/2 is kind of a bummer. Eureka. And now we see another card that our opponent is using to try it, like, with his big... He's a big minion deck. And so in this case, summon a copy of a random minion from your hand. He doesn't want to have any small minions, because that would be bad. So he has this 10 mana big beefy guy. He just played it for 6 mana. It's called cheating mana, which is really good. And now we see a little bit why I was hesitant to evolve this guy into a 5-drop. I wish I had this. I could return to my hand and get more. And because the whole deck is kind of built around this guy. And a bunch of him, like, because he's going to give you all these powerful 1/1s, which are good. But what we got to do is we got to do this turn. So what we're going to do is we're going to deal 2 damage. We want to kill this because this is summoning a random 6-cost minion every turn. And so we'll trade this and this into there. Now we have kind of a couple decisions we can make. I think what I want to do is I'll deal 4 damage to this. and then I'll punch it with the dagger. That allows me to get a little bit of value out of my... I spent 2 mana doing this instead of something else. And now we have a nice kind of beefy board that our opponent kind of has to deal with. He's got 3, 7, 8 attack in play, and he's got nothing in play. So he's likely to play an AoE card, which means area of effect, and it means it kills everything on the board. And so that was one of the reasons why I went face a couple turns ago with the 1/1 rather than punching one of his minions, because I expected him to do this. Agatha's Scheme, deal 7 damage to all minions. Bam. That's out of the way now, though. He can only have 2 of those, and that's where you start to have to really start thinking ahead. Like, okay, I got rid of 1. If I can get rid of the other, I'm golden. So this is a card that discovers a spell from another class. This is totally useless. Thoughtsteal is actually pretty good, so we'll take Thoughtsteal. It adds 2 cards to our hand from our opponent's deck. And so I don't want to do that because it'll be all my mana, and then I'll have too many cards in my hand. So instead what I'll do is I will cast this little guy, this Ethereal Lackey. And we'll take... We know he wants to play big minions. This is 4 mana, destroy an undamaged minion. That's pretty good for us. So we'll take that. And then what we'll do is this will heal up for 1 no matter what, and we have 2 mana to spare. I don't want to play this, which I'll get into in just a second. Why? But we're going to punch his face, and then we'll re-dagger up. So the reason why I don't want to play this, I have a card in my deck called King Togwaggle. And what Togwaggle does is, if I have one of these 1 mana 1/1s in play, zip, there's a big minion. And now we have this to deal with it. Which is, but we probably won't because this is kind of a smaller of his big minions. You could sap, which return it to his hand. Yeah, I don't really want to use this yet. What do I want to do here? This is kind of a tricky turn. Give me just a second. But anyways, Togwaggle, he does a powerful effect if I have one of these in play, and this might be my last one. So I want to be careful about when I use that one. Shoot. Our opponent's kind of got... He's like... Like I said, we're the aggro deck, and it looks like, even though we got all this stuff in our hand, we have nothing in play. Which is not good. We're going to do this. I'm going to do this. Add 2 cards from his deck. Okay, those are good cards. Oh, shoot. I really don't want to mill a card. Screw it. Well, we don't care about that thing. But I'm gonna play this because I don't want to mill a card. Ooh! Hey, we got to kill it. This is a 2/1 with Rush.
Nice.
So, we might have just hamstrung ourselves a little bit. Suddenly, we're kind of turning into the control deck here. We have we use Walk the Plank. We have this Hex, transform a minion into a 0/1 frog. So that's really useful. We could kill that thing, for instance. But here's the better play. We can take this thing we stole from his deck. 4/8. We'll punch it. Now this is just order. In this case, it doesn't matter, but because this thing heals us, we want to take damage first. But in this case, because you can't heal past full. And so, there we go. But, ooh, that's a pretty good card. So this seems like a pretty good opportunity to cast Hex on this. Because it turns that big 9/6 into a 0/1. But first, let's just see what spell this guy's holding. Because this is just good ordering. And so what I'm thinking here is, this is going to discover a demon, but we need to deal 2 damage to a friendly character, so it means a minion on our face. Give our minions Death Rattle, summon a 1/1 Murloc, or double a minion's health. I like doubling a minion's health. So then we're going to Hex this. We'll punch it. Now, do we want to double this thing's health? That's the question. I think not. I think if he's got an answer to this, it doesn't matter if it's got 4 or 8 health. Like we saw with the little frog thing. It doesn't matter what its health was. It just turned into a frog. So then we're going to punch him twice. And I'm just going to play this Novice Engineer, which draws us a card. Ooh, there we go. That's kind of a useful card. We could... Remember I told you about Leroy's Shadow Step before.
Oh my God.
This is the guy who does 6. Ooh, but this could be bad. Not another one. Okay, Ysera, that's more manageable. Now the question is, can he kill this?
How old is the Leroy Jenkins video?
It's very old. Obviously, Hearthstone is based off of World of Warcraft,
Yeah.
and so in this case, let me look at what time it is. Sorry, we have plenty of time. Ooh, so that does 2 to 3 damage. Ah, man, he managed to kill all of our minions. So we have actually 18 damage with this over 2 turns if we wanted, plus dealing more damage with these. So the question is, but this thing's kind of got to die. The good news is we have kind of an answer. So what I'm going to do, play this. Ooh, we've healed to full though. Which means this card deals 3 to the enemy. It's life drink. It's mosquito.
Yeah.
Hit your opponent's face, heal your face, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can sap this, which is actually really good. Because this is a 9 mana card. If he replays it, it's functionally all his mana next turn, right?
Yeah.
So sap becomes a 2 mana. Basically, it doesn't kill the minion because he still has it, but it becomes like remove it from play unless your opponent wants to be, spend a ton of their resources. So we're gonna sap this, and I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna sap. I'm gonna life drinker them twice. All right, not ideal, but it's okay. The thing is we set up lethal because Leroy 6 damage, Shadow Step, return it to our hand. It costs 2 less. 12 damage, right? We can play one more time. That's 8 mana. And then 8 mana plus these. Oh, we could just win right here. As long as it's in a taunt totem. Frick! It's a taunt totem. Oh my goodness. Wait. We might still have lethal. Let me look. Okay, so if we punch this, we have 3. It sets them down to 13. We have lethal. Okay, so it's not too complicated, but this is exciting. We hit that for 3. We hit his face for 3. He's at 13. We hit him with the dagger for 1. We play this, do 6. We Shadow Step Leroy. And we get to replay him with our last 3 mana and hit him for 6. It was exact lethal, right? And so that's what we set up for last turn though, right? We were like, okay, if I take this line and he doesn't heal or put up taunts, I can get through. And in this case, the taunt was just a little too small to stop us. And so we won. So that's really exciting. So let's switch it up, and we'll play a really so that was a Tombo deck. It's kind of a tempo deck. As you saw, I have that big burst option there. My opponent was at, 16 health?
Yeah.
And we managed to drop them to 0, right? That's a big leap, especially because we only had 6 power on board, and they had a taunt minion. An aggro deck, but it's kind of a combo deck, because as you saw, we never really ran out of resources, right? So we were always trying to do these combos to keep adding new cards to our hand. So we'll go to Mech Hunter now. This deck is pure aggro. It has some card draw, and that's one of the ways you can tell the difference between aggro and control. Control always wants to have cards to play. They want to have answers to things. Aggro, they also want cards to play, but usually they're just trying to get them into play. So, Warrior is typically a controlling class, so this is a really clear example of I am the aggro deck, he is the control deck. We're going to ditch both of these, and the question is, do we want to ditch this? So here's one thing you can do. This is not cheating, but it feels like cheating sometimes. So I'm going to go to this website called HS Replay, which is another resource kind of like this one for thinking about decks. Now we're playing, actually, I think, this very popular Mech Hunter deck. So we can look, what are the cards that are best to have? Guess what? This card is up there. A 60% win rate when this card's in our hand to start. So we'll take it. Because it is a 2-mana 1/5. And as we noted before, the mechs, they kind of build with each other. Because some of them can magnetize onto each other. So this mech is very likely to stick around because it's got a lot of health. And then you can magnetize a minion onto it. In this case, I think I want to take... This is actually kind of a tricky turn. I could take the Venomizer, which helps me kill something because I got poisonous. Basically, whenever it does damage, it kills the thing. Or I could take Fireworks Tech, give him a mech +1/+1. If it has a Death Rattle, like this one, trigger it. Both of those are pretty good. I think I want the Death Rattle one. The reason why is this Death Rattle draws a mech from our deck, and I know that I'm probably not going to kill this guy in like the first turn or two. And so potentially being able to draw 2 mechs is kind of useful. In this case, we're just going to... We could play one of these. We could play one of these 2. I'm thinking this will discount all our mechs in our hand by 1. So this will become 1, 2, and 2 mana. This is not a mech, unfortunately. She's just a crazy girl who likes mechs. So this is where, like, decision making, right? The decks don't play themselves. So even though I can play 3 2-mana cards. This one out of the question. It's a 2/1 and it's got synergy. I want to play it on a mech with Death Rattle. This one is just stats, and this one I'm playing for like these. If I hold on to this, I might get more value later, right? I might discount multiple things. But if I play it now, I get more tempo now, because these things will be cheap. Next turn I can play both of these, for instance, in the same turn. Or I could play this and something else. And so we're going for the quote-unquote tempo play, which is playing more. And so our opponent has just shown that they're the control deck. You know why? They could have done 1 damage to her face. They chose to just deal 1 damage to this instead, because he knows if the game goes long, he's going to win. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to play out my stuff. And so the only question I have is, do I want to attack this, or do I want to attack his face? Attack his face, he's more dead. That's good. Attack this, that is dead, right? He can't attack it in either of these. I want this to survive so that I can play this and trigger Death Rattle and draw 2 mechs off of it. Mm-hmm. So, is this more likely to survive if I do this attack? That's the real question. The answer really is not really. Mm-hmm. That really is the answer. I'm trying to think, does he have a way to do 2 damage? And I'm thinking through all the warrior cards in my head. For instance, they have a card called Brawl, which destroys all minion but 1. Doesn't matter with a 3 health. They have a 3/3 rush they sometimes run. Would still kill it. They have 4 mana, 2/5 rush that gets +3 the turn it's played. Still would kill it. I can't think of anything that would kill this with this that wouldn't also just kill this by itself. As a result, we attack his face because we want him to have less life. Going over the hero powers, we have very symmetrical hero powers that illustrate who is who in this matchup. Yep, that's the 5/5. So guess what? Then he attacks this, which is fortunate for us on a lot of levels. This is now a 2/4. Guess what? When I play this on this, I get to draw a mech from my deck. It gets +1, so now it's a 4/4. I can just kill that. I took a value trade because otherwise that 2/4 could have traded into this. There's other stuff you could have done. Anyways, the symmetrical hero powers. Mine does 2 damage to him. His gives him 2 armor. Armor is a special thing that goes on top of your health that you have to remove first. You saw us remove one of those before. And so you can kind of see who's the aggro deck kind of more naturally and who's the control deck. That said, there have been periods of Hearthstone where Hunter's the more control class and they're the more aggro. Here, we just got our opponent to use an AoE, which is good because we still have a lot of cards in hand. Alright, so now I gotta think for a second. What do I want to do? Kind of a tricky turn, but I think I know what I want to do. This guy summons 2/0/2 Goblin Bombs. They're little mechs that deal 2 damage to his face when they die. Those are pretty useful. And we have these cards, Magnetic, 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 Magnetic. So getting those, a bunch of little mechs on the board seems really useful. Because with Magnetic, it gets to attack that turn, right? If I just play this 5/5, it doesn't get to do anything. If I play this 5/5 on the 0/2, it gets to attack, which is really useful. You know, like we were talking about tempo a lot today. That's a lot of tempo. When something gets to do something right away, that's a lot better than something that just, you play it and it's just a bunch of stats. So we'll see what our opponent is doing here. Alright. So we have a pretty, I think it's a pretty straightforward turn here. This card deals 2 damage to a minion, and guess what? Also summons one of these little 0/2s, which is pretty useful. Yeah. This thing's got 2 health. The ideal number for this, right? So we're going to kill that, summon a 0/2. And then we got to determine what we're doing for the rest of it. This Magnetic summon 3/1/1 little other mechs. You can see I'm trying to get lots of little mechs onto the force. Now this is a 3/3, and we're just gonna go face. Because like we noted before, it doesn't really... He didn't have a way to deal with a different 3/3. So again, we don't really care. Okay, now we can see what his deck is really trying to do. And we can see why it's a control deck. He just shuffled 2 of these bombs into our deck. And what those bombs do is when drawn, they deal 5 damage to our face. But there's 17 cards. It's only a 1 in 17 or 2 in 17 chance. So now we have to make some decisions here. What do we want to do? This is good, and this is good. What is this? Yeah, okay. Let me think. Okay, so the question is, how much do we want to kill his stuff and how much do we want to hit his face? Because like I said, we are the aggro deck. But he's got 5, we've got 5. We can kind of play a little more laid back if we want. And I think I got a good turn here. Oh wait, no, that's bad. Okay, so one idea I had was play the hit here, that thing is 1 health. Play this 4/4 onto this, then trade into this, then it will do 1 damage to everything. The problem is this summons 3/1/1s. They would also all die. I could be killing my own minions.
Yeah.
So what I want to do is I kind of want to take it a little slow. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this 5-7 on here. I'm going to trade into there, and I'm going to trade this 3-3 into his 3-3. Just take it a little slow, and we'll deal 2 damage to the enemy. We're hoping to get a better death rattle than just to deal 2 damage to his face. Because the thing, and one thing that you probably started to notice is that the face health is useful, but in very much of the game, it doesn't really matter. So a lot of times a class will sacrifice its health to gain something in the here and now, right? The classic example of this is the Warlock. Now, in the Warlock in like Dungeons and Dragons and stuff, you know them as someone who taps into powerful dark magic. And in Hearthstone, it's no different. Their hero power is very powerful. It's 2 mana, draw a card. With a drawback, you take 2 damage. And so it's like, how much... okay, and now we just see our opponent just did something that's really... we drew that. We take 5 damage. But again, not really a big deal at this point in the game. Okay, so what do we want to do here? Ooh, so we definitely want to do this. And the reason why is that this is deal 3 damage. So this is 4 health. If we allow him to have this alive, he can punch this, then do that, right? He also, this card, for the rest of the game, all of his mechs, so he's kind of a mech deck, but he's a control mech deck, have Rush, which means he can attack immediately with them. And his hero power is going to keep swapping around. He's got a new hero power now. So what I want to do...
He's got 7 to his shield right now.
Yes, he does, because that's the other thing he does. So you can see the bottom right there. Gain 7 armor right away. Well, the gain 7 armor on the far right, that's a hero power that he didn't use, but then the left one, you can see the... Alright, anyways, let's try to think of this turn. What do we want to do?
His name is also Eric, but spelled differently.
It is. Oh, this is a really hard turn. So we're going to do this. Yeah, and then I'm just gonna do this. I'm kind of saying this is enough. I had the option to play this, deal 1 damage to all your other characters, but the issue with playing that was that it would deal 1 damage to this, and then this, deal 3 damage, would have killed it. And I don't want to give my opponent an easy kill on this card. The problem is that we left ourselves with a kind of weaker board. Like, we still have a lot of cards in hand, so it's okay. The other thing is that I've got a really, really good combo in this deck that's good against his deck. And that is, this card is deal 1 damage to all other characters. I've got that, remember that guy in my deck who's Magnet and it has Poisonous? All of that 1 damage is poison with that guy. So, alright, so he's got more bombs. That's what this does. Shuffle more bombs into my deck after he attacks with this thing. Alright, and so we see here that our opponent was able to kill it, which is unfortunate. But we still have 2 mechs in play, and we've got all these magnets. And so we're not too upset. Again, this thing, what it does is a 3 mana 3/4.
So many bombs.
Yeah, so many bombs, indeed. So what do we want to do here? Oh, so I could have probably set up a lethal, but this is gain 7 armor. So now it's like, it's going to be harder to kill him when he gains that 7.
No, try and do it now. I say that like it's easy.
Yeah, we'll be okay. So I'm going to do... What do I want to do here? No. Wait, it's not really that bad. Okay, I gotta play.
Okay.
This is, I think, pretty good. So, this thing's death rattle is destroy a random enemy minion. We'll trigger that death rattle to kill this, which helps us gain a lot of tempo. And then we're gonna play this, Magnetic and Lifesteal, and we're gonna slam it. Do we want to slam it on? Okay, so the question is, do we want to spread out our threats, or do we want to put it all on one big guy? And I think the answer here is actually spread them out. So we'll put it on here, and then we're going to deal 7 damage to his face. Our opponent is very low on health, which is good, and we just healed some. 7 is not a lot. He's going to go up to 14, though. If he didn't have this, we'd be in a really good spot. Unfortunately, we're just not. So this is what I was worried about. This card called Shield Slam. Ooh. Oh, that's really good. Ah. So this is his like crowning card. Summon one of these 1/1 bots for every bomb that's in my deck, or summon 2 for every one that's in my deck.
Man.
And these 1/1 bots are mechs, so they get to attack right away because his mechs have rush, right? Because of this guy.
Yeah.
And so he's just gonna keep attacking. He's gonna keep attacking our stuff until it dies. We want these could hit face. So when they die, they shoot stuff. So hit our face, darn it. So this is gonna die. But when this dies, yeah, the death rattle kills that. And so we got decently kind of lucky. Our opponent is at, okay, so that was that was like his biggest possible turn, and we survived it, which is good. The problem is we have a lot of bombs in our deck.
You have so many.
But it's okay because our opponent still needs to kill us, right? I wish we hadn't drawn those bombs though. All right, so I'm gonna do this guy, and then I'm going to do. Who do I want to magnetize to? I'm gonna magnetize it to this. Okay. So a card that I know he's running is a card called Shield Slam. What Shield Slam does is it deals damage based on his armor. And so I knew that if he had a Shield Slam, ooh, that's pretty good. We'll go over that in just a second. I knew that if he had a Shield Slam, he could have Shield Slammed this and then hit it with this. So if I had put it on this, I would have been left with no big minions. And so instead, yeah, so he's just gaining lots of armor. Like I said, he's a control deck, so he wants to gain a bunch of armor, and he wants me to draw those bombs. Unfortunately, we're at 10 health. We're not doing too good. This has been a really close game, but it does look like we are going to lose, unfortunately. The bad thing is rush, so he can run it into one of our minions. Okay, that's actually not so bad. He can kill this if he wants, which is probably what he should do. No, he's doing like the value play, and what that means is that.
Oh, he just healed him.
Yeah, so this thing gains him, whenever this minion deals damage, gain that much armor, and this one, whenever it takes damage, gain 2 armor. So that's not very good. So what we're gonna do here, and he's gaining more armor. This is not good. We have to take kind of a chance. So we kind of have all of our hopes are riding on this one big boy. We might as well play this. At this point, this doesn't get much better. Oh, the problem is that if this dealt 1 to everything, and then it dealt 1 to this, so he gained 2 armor off that. If he has Shield Slam, we lose. That's just the case. But our opponent, basically, if he hadn't...
Oh my god.
I don't want to say that our opponent only won because they got lucky, because there's a lot more that went into it. Yeah. But he gets a random hero power every turn. There's 6 of them. And he got this thing that gives him armor twice.
Yeah.
So I would consider that to be quite lucky, because as we've noted, we could have just killed him a couple turns ago if he hadn't been getting these.
Yeah.
And so that's
He's
unfortunate.
At 26.
Poison guy. Ooh, that's pretty good. Okay. So what I want to do here is I'm going to just keep magnetizing onto this. And now we have to make a decision. He's got 3, 4, 5, 6 damage to our face. So we'd be at 2. And this is 15. Which would set him to, what's 15? He's at 26 plus 7. He's at 34. Okay, we're taking a pretty big risk. So here's the risk. If he can't kill this, we can kill him next turn. Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
All right, 3, 4, 5, 6. He has to be able to do 1 damage. He's got it. I don't want to look. Oh, geez. Yep, he's got 1 damage. Okay, but we took a chance. Because we knew, he would have been able to kill us anyways. Even if, but we actually would have been able to kill him on next turn. Because this thing is just so huge.
Yeah.
So, I'll say well played. And he can see that. And that's okay. It was a pretty good game. So, we didn't climb very much today. But we did also spend more time than I would normally take. Ooh! Ouch! Ooh, I hurt myself on the thing. Yeah, there's a sharp thing underneath the table. We level 60, which is actually the highest level you can get with any class.
Nice.
With Hunter. And we got a golden Iron for Grizzly. Golden cards are the same as regular cards, they're just golden. Alright. So that's us playing Hearthstone. What questions do you have after an hour of just playing competitive Hearthstone on the ladder?
My question is, and this kind of goes into last week's game as well.
Oh, we have a question. Greetings from Denmark.
Nice to see your streams after 30 hours of work on a 3-day.
Hey, well, nice to see you too. Sorry, but continue on.
And if you have any questions, let us know. My question, like with the two, last week and this week are very strategy heavy. But most of the esports that I've dealt with are like Overwatch and Tekken and all of the like quote unquote button mashing, even though it's more than button mashing.
Sure.
So like in the world of esports, is there sort of like a quote unquote hierarchy of types of games?
I wouldn't call it a hierarchy, because that implies like that one thinks it's better than other ones.
Yeah.
And but there are definitely different genres of esports. In this case, the past 2 weeks we've played mostly strategy-oriented games. Whereas next week we're going to be playing Street Fighter, which is a fighting game. What I will say is that the depth of thought and strategies and the metas that develop, and what a meta is, just for you guys at home, I think I might have touched on it last week, but what a meta is it's what you expect your opponents to be doing and what your opponents expect you to be doing. So for instance, I knew that when I queued up against that warrior right early on in our last game, I said we're probably the aggro, he's probably the control. That's because I know in the meta most of the warriors running around are this bomb control warrior. When I was the mage deck and I ran into that rogue deck earlier, I said we're the control deck, he's the aggro deck. And that was because I knew that most of the rogue decks were this one right here. So metas are obviously change and evolve, and they're very deep and interesting for a lot of different games. And that's something that we'll cover over time as we're doing this. But usually if we're going over like for 2 hours just the basics of a game, the meta is not really our primary concern. But so there's like strategy games though, there's fighting games, but fighting games still require a lot of depth of strategy. It's like, what fighter are you choosing? What moves are you using? What mind games are you using to kind of influence your opponent?
Those secret spell cards.
Yeah, sure. Those secret spell cards, exactly. And so there's a lot of different things that go into it. So I wouldn't call it like a hierarchy or anything. And I would say that I think every esport, whether it's Overwatch or Tekken or anything, are all fundamentally rooted in strategy.
Yeah.
Because if it was just who can click on the other person's head faster or better, then I think it wouldn't be a very engaging thing to watch, nor would it be an interesting game to play for the many hours that people play these games, right? Like, look at how many, I have 420 wins with Priest, or with Mage, and 689 wins with Priest. And if we go to my quest log, I have a total of over 2,000 total wins. Now, I'm only winning half of them, right? So I've probably played almost 5,000 games, which remember about 500 away, but 500 games, and let's say they're all about 10 minutes each. That's a lot of my life to play this game. Yeah. That's the thing that why we're doing this show kind of on esports to some degree, is that because of the depth of the strategy involved in all of them, they're the most replayable kinds of games. Yeah. Because you're playing against real people who have real thoughts and opinions and who change, right? Like even if I play against the same deck 3 times in a row, or if I'm playing this deck, Tempo, and let's say our Lackey Rogue, and I play 3 times against Cyclone Mage, it's going to be different because they're different people playing the deck. Even if it's the same deck, they might make different decisions just because of that. They might have different ideas about what's good and what's not about the deck. I'm playing against... they're not only playing against different people, but they're going to have different cards in their hand each time. They might take different risks. I might not have the same cards in my hand. So you can see there's a lot of variety. And that happens even in a game like StarCraft, where in theory, if you play the same game on 2 maps, technically the same resources are available to you. Players will change their strategies to try to mix up the other person. Same thing with a fighting game, like Street Fighter, where I'm going to change up my strategy to whatever's going to beat you. If option A isn't working, I'm going to go to option B. And maybe I'll mix in option A a little bit to throw you off, right? And so... Does that make sense about why I wouldn't describe it as a hierarchy?
Yeah, I didn't mean to come off as like a...
Yeah.
Because I was reading up on different esports, and like there was like, it should be part of, like there's people who are trying to make it as part of the Olympics to legitimize it. And I'm sitting here, I was like, I mean, I'm not completely against it, but in my head, I think the Olympics are a test of physical ability, not so much games themselves.
Yeah.
But depending on someone's definitions, like, no, Olympics is all games and all types of competitions. So...
Yeah. I don't think like chess or anything, but equestrian sports have been in the Olympics, so it gets tricky.
Yeah,
I would
like
say
if chess
that,
was in there, I'd be like, okay, yeah, definitely esports.
I would say, yeah, with the Olympics, that I think like something like esports is like kind of a red herring because it's trying to like legitimize something that is already legitimate. There's already hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars on the line when people are playing these games, and hundreds of thousands of people are watching them. So there's no reason to like feel like we're only legitimate if we're in the Olympics or something like that, in my opinion at least. But let's go ahead and we want to move on to our last segment of this show, which is we're going to watch some competitive gameplay. In this case, we're going to watch Dog, these two American players, versus Just Saying. And they're basically featuring two of the decks that we played this week. One down here is that mage deck we started with, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to speed it up just a little bit because we're a little bit behind. Because players take a long time to do their turns.
Are you allotted more time in?
No, you have the same amount of time. I forget about exactly how much a turn is. I think it's 1 minute 30 seconds. And obviously, if that rope didn't exist, you could grief your opponent just by like being like, "I'm just not gonna play," and like you just sit there, right? And sometimes I will say I've quit some games because my opponent just did that every turn, and I'm like, "This is not fun." But most players, if they're roping, it's because they're making serious decisions. And so, but here, whoa, things are going a little fast for these early turns, but they should slow down in a moment. So in this case, we saw this matchup actually today, which was the Spirit of the Shark Rogue, which all these battle cry minions, which adds a lot of extra cards to its hand, right? All of those things. And then we've got the Cyclone Mage down here. And the Cyclone Mage, as we noted, tries to do this combo with the giant minions and then making extra copies of the same cost. Right, and so we see he's got some of the combo pieces here. He's got a giant in his hand, as well as he's got 2 Conjurer's Calling, which is like the really good card that he wants. He doesn't have, though, the Mountain Giant, which is the card that reduces depending on the size of your hand. Now, what he can do next turn... Oh, yeah, let's focus on... So what he's been doing is he's just been playing stuff. He's the aggro deck a little bit. So Just Saying kind of has a tricky play here. He could play this Sandbinder, which is what he does. Draws an elemental from his deck. This isn't an elemental, so now he's got the giant, but now he's got a full hand. So he has to decide, is this coin worth giving up this turn, right? Right, giving up my next card in my deck. He decided no. And I think the reason why he did that was because the Mountain Giant will be 3 next turn, and this Conjurer's Calling, the card he wants to pair with it, is 3. And so with the coin, he can play 3 coin, play the Conjurer's Calling on it, which for 6 mana, which is ideal. Meanwhile, he's taken quite a beating. And his opponent just played a marquee card in his deck, which is that 0/3 that doubles things. So right now you can see very clearly who's kind of the beat down deck. He's very clearly trying to kill him before he can get his combo online. Unfortunately, and now I want to pause for just a second about what was going on in Dog's head there. If I was Dog, my opponent just actively chose to have 10 cards in hand and not play anything, right? I know that this is a likely possibility. He's got the 3 mana thing, and he's going to play the coin, and he's going to do it. So what he's got to think is, what is my best setup to possibly deal with that, right? And that's where a lot of the deep strategy and of the competitive play that's so important and integral becomes, like, that's where you start to interact with your opponent. It's not just, well, my minion attacks your minion. It's what do I think you have in your hand, and how can I play around that, right? And we saw that sometimes when I was playing, like last game, where I tried to play around Shield Slam, right? I'm like, oh, his armor's really high. If I play this, he could just Shield Slam it.
Yup.
And so he got 1 taunt, and he got 1 8/8. And now he's got this 2/4, and he could attack it into either of these, but it's likely to not do much, right? His opponent is likely to play this attack into these. So, alright, so Dog is going off. He's playing a lot of things. All of his battle cries trigger twice. He just got 4 lackeys, which is really good. And now these lackeys deal 4 damage each. So he actually might be able to clear both of these giants. I'm not sure. We'll see. So just 2 damage there. Oh, okay. So then he's gonna do 2 damage there. How can he do 1 more damage? Yes, he can. All right. So what he's gonna do is he's got this card Shadow Step, right? We saw it before. Return a minion in your hand. It costs 2 less, which means that these 1 mana lackeys cost 0. So what he can do is he can kill this, run into this, run to that, and he can clear this, which is really good. And the reason why is because he knows, Dog knows, because he played a Conj Calling last turn. He's got another Conj Calling. If I leave either of these up, no matter what their health is, he can destroy it and summon more copies. So Dog, even though maybe he wants to go face, I mean, he just dumped 16 damage into those two guys, right? This opponent's only at 20. The problem is he's likely just going to outright lose the game if he doesn't, right? And so, he's expert playing by Dog. He was able to clear, and that now he's like, oh my god, what's my play here? The answer is to start freezing his opponent's stuff, right? Because he's like, I need to set up for another one. Freeze all minions, that looks pretty good to me. Arcane Intellect looks good too, because drawing cards. And now he's got 2 of these cards, which reduce the cost of his spells. So he's just looking to play lots and lots and lots of spells. He's got an interesting decision here, though. He could try to draw more cards, and then get that guy that we saw last time who adds more cards to your hand. But he chose not to. Instead, he's taking what I would call the safer play, which is he freezes everything, and then he does this deal 2 damage to a frozen minion to kill the thing that's doubling all the battle cries and combos. Because that was really why all his stuff died.
Yep.
And so you can see how even when they're not relating on the board, that they're still playing around what each other have and stuff of that nature, which is that's so crucial. And so Dog is he's trying to get a lot of these 1/1s out. He's discovering spells. That's card prep. It just makes his next spell cost two less, which is very tempo, right? Like you spend a card out of your hand, but something else in your hand costs less, right? That's like the definition of tempo. So now
good old Leroy Jenkins.
Yes. So this is actually kind of a tricky. So this card he just played was called Tracking. It's actually a hunter card that he chose a lot earlier in the game. What it is look at the top 3 cards of your deck, pick one, the other 2 are gone forever. Okay. So it's a good kind of in terms of tempo-y value in the sense of if the game goes to me drawing all my cards, well now I don't have those 2. That's really bad.
Yeah.
But if the game doesn't go that long, then I just got a card for 1 mana. That's pretty good. What does he take? Does he take Leroy? Leroy does 6.
I would always take Leroy.
Nope, he picked Waggle Pick. Waggle Pick is a 4/2 weapon, which means it gets to attack twice and has 4 attack, which means it can punch his opponent twice, which is 8. Just a little more damage over 2 turns. Every week I run out of water in this section. Oh, so he just did another Conch Calling. So those are 2 random 10 drops. And you can see, look at all these stats he's got. Now what Just Saying is thinking, if these 2 things stay alive, I win the game. Right? So he's like, okay. Oh, and that's bad. We did this to somebody earlier today. I did not plan this totally. I planned a deck with decks that our game with decks we were playing, but this literally happened in a game we played today, where our opponent had every slot on their board full, all 7 with little guys, and then we froze them all. They can't attack, so he can't kill them, so he can't play more minions. And so now his opponent, 12, 22, 25, 26, 26. So 26 damage. Fortunately, we saw this card today, destroy an undamaged minion. He killed that one. I'm actually curious. I don't understand. That was a really weird play.
I think he healed. If I'm not mistaken.
Well, no. See, here's what was weird about that, and I'd have to talk to Just Saying to understand. He used the Walk the Plank, right? Destroy an undamaged minion. His opponent had a 12-12 and a 10-10.
Oh, and he
destroyed the 10-10. Now, the 10-10 did have a death rattle, but functionally speaking, the death rattle didn't matter, because that death rattle only takes effect if you have no cards in your deck, which obviously, opponent has a lot of cards in the deck. So, that was really interesting. I don't know why he did that. Maybe, I don't think it was a misplay. Dog is a professional player. He's one of the best players in the whole world at this game.
I mean, people are able to do misplays.
Yes, that's true. Pros miss lethal all the time, let alone just misplay. Okay, so what is the play here? Yeah, I like this. Alright, so he's adding those bananas to her hand, and they cost 0. And so, and this costs 0. So now Just Saying he's going off, right? Just playing lots and lots, playing a lot of cards. A lot of these cards we saw this game, but you see once the rogue comes up, you're like, oh no, I gotta do some stuff. So now, Just Saying was making a tough decision.
Jesus.
Do I send the 12 into this 1/4 or into his face? The reason why you kill the 1/4 is because we saw that there's cards that will pull minions back, right? And maybe he was thinking, if he pulls that back, is that too bad for me? And he decided, no, it's more worth it for me to go face. And so you can see, like, that's an element of strategy that's going to always be consistent in Hearthstone, especially when you are the quote-unquote aggro deck. And it's also worth noting at high level play, and even in some of the games we saw today, who is the aggro deck can switch. He was the aggro deck early on, and now he's the aggro deck, right? And so you can see that is part of the reason why the game is, to me, so entertaining. It's because like you can really like things could just change on a dime as to who is the control and who's the aggro deck. Oops, we're still going. All right, so they're just playing some more. It looks like Jasane's got a pretty commanding lead. Well, but he just used the sap. So remember, this returns them into his hand. Bam. Say bye-bye to your 12-12, right? And that might have been the reason why Dog killed this instead of the other one. Because this is a good card. It destroys all the other minions when it's played. It's Deathwing. It's this really iconic World of Warcraft character. Oh, Dog counted. He knew he was dead. But that destroyed all minions in play, but it also discards your whole hand.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's this big, massive minion that you play on turn 10, but also you lose all your other cards, which could be really bad. So let's go ahead and we'll skip ahead just a little bit. Oop, we wanted to see their mulligan, because the mulligan is really important. It's like what you, we wouldn't have gotten to see the mulligan anyways, because the broadcasters were talking, and then they went right into the game before the mulligan. But mulliganing is just very important because you need to have the right early game answers, especially against aggro decks, because if you don't, they'll just run you over, right? And so you want to make sure you have the exact right cards. And that's why earlier we had looked up, like, what are the best mulligan win rate cards, right? Don't keep Leroy, right? Because Leroy's a finisher, right? You play him when you just won the game, right? You don't want to keep him in your mulligan, right? But Galvanizer, that's a little two drop who reduces the cost of your other cards by 1. Good card to have early in the game. Same thing with Mekaru. Little 1/1 that when he dies, he summons another little 1/1. And so you want to... It's not always, though, as simple as I keep the cheap cards. Because look, these 2 cards are cost 3, so they cost more than these or this. But they are higher mulligan win rate cards than the other ones. So we'll let this one passively play out a little bit. We don't have any questions on the screen, but do you have any questions or anything?
Let me think. So I know that there's a lot of strategy, there's a lot of chance, there's a lot of things that go into this. But are there ever pro players that play with just what's free from the game after buying the game? Or does everyone play with decks where you've spent money buying these cards?
I would say that Hearthstone is a relatively friendly game from a free-to-play perspective. It's kind of tricky. Like, I'm mostly free-to-play, but I spend money occasionally, so I'm not necessarily entirely free-to-play, but I don't like every expansion. There will be like a expansion bundle or whatever, and I haven't bought an expansion bundle in a long time. So like, and yet I still have a really robust collection. And so for Hearthstone, like you saw with those daily quests, you just get those regardless. You don't pay money for those, and then every 100 gold you have, you get a pack. And so what am I trying to say?
But the good cards, like, is it...
Well,
like,
so there's...
With Magic the Gathering, yes, you could get lucky and get something in a deck, but, like, you could drop thousands on cards.
Yeah, let's go ahead and just look at some of the decks that we have here for just a second. So we'll look at that Lackey Rogue, which is one of the decks that we saw. Now, there's 4 kinds of legendaries.
I'm going to interrupt just because I'm talking about the pros, like the people who are like making money on this.
Well, they're going to spend money to get cards.
Yeah.
Some pros will do like what's called a free-to-play challenge, where they'll start a new account and try to get to Legend, which is like that super high rank, in 1 month. Which is because like every month it resets back. So like, you know, obviously if it takes more than a month, then you kind of spent more time than allotted. A lot of pros are able to do that pretty easily. And that's because good play is a lot more important than having good cards, generally speaking. That said, those really basic, and now no, we played the classic priest, which is the one that Blizzard builds for you. If I were going to like critique this, like I say, like, oh, these cards not useful, not good. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm instantly like, oh, these probably aren't good, right? So there's a thing called, like, budget decks and things of that nature. We'll just delete that. That's an abomination. And a budget deck is a deck that is cheap to build. Actually, our Mech Hunter is a budget deck. We have 1 legendary in it, And this legendary, it is legendary, but it's free. You just get it if you sign in this month, you get this legendary for free. So it's technically not right. We wouldn't call that an expensive legendary.
Yeah.
And so if I just remove that minion from the deck, and if we remove this one, which is probably the worst card in the deck, honestly, some cards got to be the worst card. This deck actually has no cards that are more than a common or rare. So you see that blue gem or that white gem? That means common. It means the cheapest to craft, and rare the second cheapest. These epics, purple, they'll cost 400 dust to craft. And then what do we got? Let me find a legendary. I know I've got there we go. This costs 1600 dust, and as you can see, I mean I've got 6,000, so I could like easily just craft this card if I wanted. But this deck is all commons and rares, which means it's actually would be really simple to craft. And so if I were a new player, this would be something to aim for. A lot of times the aggro decks are a little cheaper to make than the control decks. But even if we go to like this deck, which is one of the ones that we're seeing on stream right now, or on the competitive thing, still a lot of commons. If it doesn't have a thing, that means basic, which means you get it for free. You don't even need to have it in a pack. This is 1 legendary, 2, 3 legendaries. Okay, that's quite a bit. Because those 3 combined, if we're just counting their dust, that'd be 16 plus 16 plus 16,
right.
So 4,800 dust. But I opened this in a pack, and I opened that in a pack, so I only had to craft just this one. And these 2 are in the classic set, which means that they'll never rotate out. Which means, like, you know, I opened these a long time ago, and they're still seeing play in my collection. So for this deck, I actually know for a fact this is the only card I had to craft for this deck, because most of the cards I just open in packs because they're commons and rares. And so this one here, the other deck we were running today, 1 legendary, a lot. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 legendaries. So that's a lot. Fortunately, let's see. I crafted that. I opened that. I crafted that. I opened that, and I opened that. So about a 50-50 split. So some decks are obviously going to be much more expensive. But if you were to ask me right now, my computer's running low on battery. We'll just shut that. If you were to ask me which of these decks is better of these 3 decks, this is probably the best deck, the cheapest one. And then the less expensive one than this. Like, this is probably the worst of these 3 decks, honestly. And so I wouldn't describe the game as like pay to win or anything, but if you're like looking to have a wide variety of decks and you're just starting out, now I've been playing for a long time, which helps me amass a bigger collection, right? So that can be like a big part of it. And like you'll see on these websites, when you're scrolling through, they'll tell you how much dust it costs to make this. So look at the second most popular deck in the game, only costs 3,000. 3,000 would be a lot by itself, but you have to remember that most of these are like common cards, which most players already have. In fact, this deck has 3 rares, the legendary, which doesn't count because you don't actually have to craft it, you get it for free. And then and then a bunch of commons. And this is the second most played deck in the game right now, right? And it wins 58% of its games. So, and that's amazing. Anything above 50 is actually really, really good, because you can sometimes just draw really bad, right? Like, you're just not going to win 100% of your games. And if we go to the highest win percentage decks, all right, so it's a lot of these warriors. We saw a couple warriors. They're actually really expensive decks. But I would say that they're only marginally better than these much cheaper decks.
58 versus
60 and 61, exactly. And so a new player definitely can get involved in the game and build a competent competitive deck, I think, pretty quickly. But it definitely can feel bad when you're like, oh man, I really want to play Freeze Mage, but I just don't have all those cards. And that can be kind of a bummer. Same thing like here, and we see kind of a wide variety here, like 6,000, 3,000, 8,000, 12, 8, 5, 9. So 4. 4 is pretty good. 3 here, so that's pretty good. I remember someone got Legend with a deck that cost 2,000, which is really low. And so, yeah, it can be tricky. Did I answer your question, you feel?
Yeah.
All right. What else? What other questions you got?
I don't know. I have to have a think on it, because one of the main things that keeps me from playing a lot of the Magic the Gathering, the deck building games, really is just that I don't want to spend a lot of money on this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
but
Yeah, I would say compared to Magic: The Gathering, Hearthstone is a lot more friendly in those in that term. But the other thing to note,
it's also faster paced.
it's a much faster pace. I mean, some people joke that Hearthstone's a game designed to be played on the toilet. Like, so like the games are like roughly 10 minutes long, right, or less. An aggro versus aggro matchup will be really quick often, and so it's kind of tricky. Like, I would say the new player experience for Hearthstone is very good, but the other thing to note about this compared to a game like Magic: The Gathering is that in Magic, you own the card. It's a physical thing that you can then go sell. You can't sell your cards here. So once you've bought them, they're in your like little virtual collection. But that does also mean you get a lot of stuff for free.
Yeah.
So like even if we just look at my account quickly, now what I do is kind of unique, but I save all my gold in between, and when an expansion drops, I spend all my gold, and then I just wait, and I don't spend it again. So right now I've got basically 49 packs here. Like I could just open 49 packs, and I actually have 10 saved up. That's for a really esoteric reason that doesn't concern the stream right now. At the same way, I have 6,000 dust, which is actually a lot, and I have 3,600 if I just disenchant my extra cards. And I have a reason for doing that. Not doing that, also esoteric. But so right now I could craft a bunch of legendaries and epic cards and crazy stuff and still be able to buy a bunch of packs too.
Yeah.
And like I said, I don't really spend very much money on this game. In the past 12 months, I know that I've spent like $20 in the game.
Yep.
And so, but that's because I planned in advance. I've been playing for a long time, so it's easier for me. I don't have to craft the classic cards, which are evergreen. They'll never rotate out. And two, I've got cards from all these old sets that if I really needed the dust, I could go back and say, sorry, Shellblade Champion, you were fun for a while, but I don't want you anymore, right? Like, and that helps with having like enough dust for things. But so that's kind of how I feel. I feel like if you're just getting into it, it's a little harder. You obviously don't have a big, expansive collection, but I think you can still have fun and still enjoy playing the game. And there's so much to learn and so many hours. You really have to devote hours to the game to like you saw like when I was playing like in a lot of the games that we were playing today, I was able to predict what my opponent had. And what I could play around and what I should, and stuff like that. And those things you can really only get from experience. And so a lot of times it can feel like when you're a new player, you lack both of those things. You lack a collection as well as experience. And so the game can feel really daunting. Like, oh man, like, but the good thing is that the ranked mode and the casual play, they're gonna match you up with other new players who are bad and have bad decks typically. But it can feel bad if like you match up against somebody and they're playing a 12,000 dust deck, right? That like they've got all the good cards and you got none of them, and then you lose, and it could be because they had a better collection and they had a better deck. But oftentimes it's because you were just the worst player. Yeah. And then, but you still feel like, oh man, this game is just pay to win and. This sucks, right? And that can sometimes be a feeling that's echoed in the community, is that Hearthstone is like pay to win. Or if people feel like there's too many cards with this keyword, random, there's a lot, and Hearthstone also has a lot to create more variety than just drawing cards. There's like, add a random elemental to your hand. Well, that's going to be different every time you play it. Add a random elemental to your hand. Transform a minion into a friendly one that costs one more, a random minion, right? Put a random copy of a card from your opponent's deck in your hand. Now that's pretty crazy because your opponent's deck is changing and the random card is going to change. It's like moving targets, right? And so sometimes people will say it's a children's card game because you can't control what happens with these random effects. But a lot of times playing around random effects is part of skill. For instance, this. If your opponent has 4 or more minions, take control of one at random. If I know that my opponent's deck is likely to have this card, I need to not have 4 or more minions. And then that card can't do anything to me. So just because a card says random, it makes just for more variety. But so that's kind of what I would say about building a collection, and I would say it's definitely an easy game to get into. It's very quick, like you can really describe what's going on in Hearthstone, and really quick. Like I felt like last week we spent 30 minutes on StarCraft for like our beginning, and I felt like, oh, I've got so much more to talk about. This week we spent 10 minutes on Hearthstone, and I was like, I'm ready to jump into some games. And so that's probably its greatest strength, is that Hearthstone is a very simple game. It's easy to get into. It's pretty easy to understand what's going on. And when you're watching competitive play, it's pretty easy to tell like who's winning and who's losing, and it's easy to tell like, you know, there's a lot of different things. I mean, this is a complex game because they're both combo decks, but still. But that brings us to 459. So any closing thoughts?
No, it's good. I'm learning more about Hearthstone.
All right. You guys rock. Have a fantastic day and enjoy the weekend.
Peace
And we'll
out.
see you next week for some Street Fighter action.